July 22nd, 2024. Before I have everyone join me for the pledge, I'd like to welcome a new member that we have on our board, Gene Van Pelt. So I want him to be welcome, so when roll call's around, everybody else here doesn't go, who's he? Okay, if everyone would please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please, Danielle.
Yeah, absolutely. Filkins?
Here.
Host?
Here.
Rice?
Here.
Bunce? Bosher?
Here.
Bauman?
Here.
Bent?
Here.
Putvin?
Here.
Van Pelt?
Here. Thank you. If everyone had a chance to review this evening's agenda again, July 22nd, 2024.
Move its approval.
Support.
Thank you.
Putvin?
Yes.
Bosher?
Yes.
Bauman?
Yes.
Bunce? Bent?
Yes.
Rice?
Yes.
Filkins?
Yes.
Host?
Yes.
Van Pelt?
Yes.
Also, hopefully it wasn't horrible, but the, anyway, approval of June 24th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Move their approval.
Second it.
Bent?
Bauman?
Yes.
Bent?
Yes.
Bunce? Filkins?
Yes.
Host?
Yes.
Rice?
Yes.
Bosher?
Yes.
Putvin?
Yes.
Van Pelt?
Yes.
Thank you again. This evening, we're here on public hearings to consider revocation of a special land use permit for 707 North Mitchell Street. Having read that, Mr. Wallace, are you running with us, or?
I can just start off.
Sure.
I included a memo in your packets.
Yep.
Basically outlining the reason for this on the agenda. When the special use permit was granted, the applicant was given 60 days to submit a site plan. That was not done. The first sign of a site plan came in on May 21st, and it didn't contain the necessary information to do a complete review. It gave some general idea of what was happening, but no measurements and no setbacks and none of the routine information that you would need. As of last Friday, and you have it on your table, site plan finally did get submitted. That's pretty close to having the required information. It was prepared by our engineering firm, Prine and Newhoff. But basically, we're here today to, given that the requirement for the submittal of the site plan was tremendously behind the time, to offer the applicant an opportunity to present why the condition of the approval was not met, and then it would be up to you to take whatever action you feel is appropriate given what their presentation is. The problem we also have as a complication is, as we move on with other violations on the site, is the fact that there's now legal action between Java owners and the applicant, which also involves the site plan in that it involves ultimate determination of what happens with the driveways. So that's kind of an added complication to the overall mix. And one of the other conditions of the approval of the special land use was that the site plan would ultimately have to be justified against whatever court action is comes out of the legal action between the Java owners and Mike Dersham's business. So that's the other complication. But right now we're not dealing with all of the violations that might be on the site. We're merely dealing with the subject of the special land use permit. And in my memo, I try to lay it out as clearly as possible and as succinctly as possible. But with that, the main purpose of the meeting is to allow Mike to present whatever information he has as to why the conditions were not met, and then give you whatever information you might need to take action on this item.
Okay. Thank you. So at this time, I can open public hearing and take all that information, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open public hearing, again pertaining to why we're back here this evening. So, whoever wants to come forward and chat at us, more than welcome. Yes, sir? No? You good?
I would invite,
Yes.
I would invite the property owner to speak first.
That would make sense to me, since that's the reason we're here.
I'm going to speak on behalf of the property owner, as kind of the property owner,
Okay.
his wife.
So you own half of it.
Yeah, essentially.
Your name, young lady?
My name is Ashley Osowski,
Ashley?
and this, as John said, has been very complicated. Mostly because of a lot of disagreements with the Java company and our survey getting done late. Sorry, I'm trying to talk in. So, the site plan has been very complicated. We did try to submit 2 of them, and they may not have been as detailed as wanted. However, it's been complicated. Our parking lot is going to get tore up this year, so that kind of has affected things. We are super late. We just got our survey back, which we asked them to come do it probably November. We called the survey company, and they didn't just do it until like 2 weeks ago. So we just got our survey back with our property lines. Yeah, so it's just been a long process. I have tried to submit site plans, and they've always come back. So Marcus was nice enough to have the engineers come and help us with the site plan, and that's what we have right now. It could still change. As John said, we are in a new lawsuit with Java. They're trying to claim ownership of property that we believe is not theirs. So we are working on that. We're working on everything right now. So like I said, it's been really hard to submit like an actual site plan when it could change every day. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. As for some of the things that were mentioned on the site plan, we submitted them. We put poles in the grass area. Originally, that was one thing that John had brought up to keep people off the grass because it is still contaminated and people need to stay off it according to the state of Michigan. During the winter, Java had plowed into that area and tore up the contaminated grass area, so we fixed that this spring with our own money and time. We do have the parking lot getting tore up this fall, I think, for sewer line. I don't know, that's city stuff. So none of the parking lines have been done yet because, well, it's going to be a mess here shortly. We are kind of on the fence about the fence as this time. I know the new site plan has it on there, but that could change again. If the screening of the dumpster is such an issue, we will just get rid of the dumpster and put it at our house, and we'll take our trash back and forth. Personally, you can't see our dumpster where it's at anyway, so I'm not sure what the screening issue is there. The amount of letters we've gotten has been crazy. We feel like absolute deadbeats because we're just trying to make a business for ourselves, and we've been nothing but harassed, which I don't think is fair. But it is what it is. I get that they're zoning. Nobody's come in and tried to talk to us, and when they did, they said, oh, you're doing a good job. But then another person says, you're not doing a good job. So it's really frustrating that nobody can be on the same page here. Also on our site plan, they show a barrier with the Java stuff. So we're trying to make our property, and their property, so there's no more disputes about traffic backing up over there, which is quite an issue sometimes. And yeah, that's all I have to say about our site plan. Are there any questions about it?
Well, we will do our very best to get everybody on the same page tonight, and that's why we're all here. I
It's been
guess.
very
So
complicated.
We will review everything you just mentioned.
Yeah. Also, oh, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
So we have a space in front of our building. It's a wide open area. I don't know exactly the measurements. I'm sure it says on there. But we were told we can't use it for parking. Even though Mancino's had used it for parking, there's still parking lines up there. So we had placed firewood and fire rings for sale. And we also do the equipment rental. So we have our 2 tractors. One's a mini excavator, one's a skid steer, and they're kind of tucked back, so they're not infringing on any like viewing, but they are out front, and so we'd like to keep those there also if possible, because business has been much better since people could actually see that those are for rent.
I don't remember approving that type of thing on your site.
No, that's why I brought it up again. It's on the new site plan. I don't know how that works, but I just wanted to say that was there also. But yeah, okay, now I think I'm done. The garden. Oh, well, I know that it wanted to be approved for the garden, but we got letters all winter long, and you can't really do a garden in the winter. So when spring came, we kind of just took action and put in a new rock garden. It's low maintenance, so I don't have to water it. And I think it looks really nice. However, I know that has been an issue as well. But now that's all good, so.
As in it's just rocks, or you now have plants?
No, it's just rocks. I'm
Just
not putting
rocks.
plants there.
Okay.
That requires maintenance, which I don't have time to do.
Okay.
And I don't want dead flowers out there because I forgot to water them 10 days in a row.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a very nice rock garden. It turned out really well.
Okay. Any board members, any questions for Miss Ashley before she takes a seat? No? We're good? You good? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in our audience? I was thinking maybe. Good evening.
I am Beth Walleen, and I'm the current co-property owner of 725 North Mitchell, which is the Cadillac Java property. We are currently selling the property under land contract, so we still hold title to the property. And the Kurtzmans and their family are in the process of purchasing that from us. Is that the basic information that you need from
Well,
me?
No, that's great.
As
Yeah, that tells us
to
who
our
you are.
interest in the property.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to review the memo from John Wallace as well as the most recent business plan submitted for your review. We're very concerned with the new site plan, only in as much as it affects the property of Cadillac Java. We are not disputing ownership or the line of ownership. What we are concerned with is there's been a 40-year history of shared property lines with those curb cuts. And so we asked our attorney to submit to the city a copy of our circuit court complaint and a copy of our registered survey showing those curb cuts so that you can see the pattern of history with those shared driveways. We are squarely set before the circuit court that has been filed and will be decided by the court. So we're asking that you consider the memo and at least hold off on a decision about the site plan until the court has had an opportunity to make a decision on the easement that we're requesting. The easement would be a shared easement so that they have as much right to the driveway cuts as we have and historically have had for over 20 years in that coffee shop business. as far as that's concerned, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer. The other issue, the revocation of the special use permit, we are 100% in support of that, because we believe that they've demonstrated their unwillingness to even honor the setback codes of where those buildings that you approved to be set, they are on the line. One even crosses the line, and I have a photograph of that. And they've added since then parking blocks, as she described, to demarcate the property lines, which really impinges on the drive pattern for the business that's been there for 20 years. So that's what I have to say about this matter. It is, we don't have a date yet for our court. It's been served and waiting for an answer before a date gets set. So that's,
You just read my mind.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
And just to be clear,
Yes.
we're only here for the revocation of the special land use
At-
permit,
at this
not
time.
approval of a
Site plan.
site
yeah.
plan.
Perfect.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, Paul.
I am Paul Kurtzman. I am the, current owner of Java. And I've been there since December, I think. As far as the court case going on, I'm only aware of a prescriptive easement case to where the driveways are shared. When we bought the business, we were under the impression that they were shared driveways. I believe they still are shared driveways. We are not in any way, shape, or form against the vape shop operating their business however they see fit. It's good with us. Their property is their property, our property is our property. The only thing that I would have any concern about would be as long as I have enough driveway on River Street to operate the business. And I think, judging from the marks on there, Mike, help me out, the pink paint, that is the property line. I believe there's enough there. Depending on what happens, I may ask to maybe move the curb cut down a little bit to give me a few extra feet. Don't know if it's necessary. But I just want to be clear, as far as what they want to do with their property, that's their business, and that's okay with us. We operate on our side, with respect. We operate on our side, and I believe them to do the same. I did plow snow on their yard last year with permission. I did not get it cleaned up in time. I compensated for it, and I did apologize, and I do apologize again. Won't happen again. But as far as the site plan goes, Java Cadillac is good with whatever the city decides.
Okay.
So I'm not against anything. I'm not against them selling sheds. Never have been. As far as the parking lot goes, I hope they would agree with me that traffic flow needs to work in a manner that it's suitable for both businesses. It won't ever work for it to be against one or the other. The traffic flow is a traffic flow. I know a lot about driveways and parking lots and how important they are to the business. So I don't think we'll have any problem with anything as long as we both can operate our business. If they're separated, that's fine. I just want everybody to know that as far as Java Cadillac is concerned, we have a right to operate business. They have a right to operate business. And that's how I would expect the city government to say that's the way it's gonna be.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you, Paul.
Yep.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Ashley's mother-in-law, or Ashley's mom and Michael's mother-in-law. And we're here about the sheds, right? Because there's a lot of talk about everything else. Right?
The special land use approval
For
for
the
the
sheds.
sheds and the possible revocation of that.
Okay, that's what I thought, because there was a lot going on here. Ashley has Cadillac tuxedo. And she has kids from this high getting little tuxes to kids running before baseball practice to get tuxes. And the sheds have cause to slow down traffic. When they were working on the building, somebody almost got knocked off a ladder. Just because they've been cutting across from that first drive in front of the building across to Java. And I've done it myself. Before the sheds were there, I've done it myself because it's just easier than going to the corner and trying to go around that light. So I'm guilty of it. But the sheds have caused that to slow down, and I worry about somebody getting killed or hit or another car getting hit or a child getting hit. There is a lot of traffic up there, especially during prom season and the snowball, or I guess the football season, and then during wedding season. Of course, June and August, October are the really busy times. Sometimes September is really in there too. And I've seen, like I said, I go up and help her because she'll have like 10 guys in there getting tuxes, and they brought their little boys. And of course, no one can go back to the vape shop unless they're 21 years old. They're very strict about that. So sometimes I'm up there helping them. And that's my only main concern. I just would hate to be, guilty of somebody getting hit or killed, a little kid. You know what it's like. Little kids get out of the car and take off. I was with my granddaughter all weekend. Had to control her. But that's just what I wanted to say as far as the sheds. And I do not live in the city of Cadillac.
Okay. Are you aware of the letter that was sent to Mr. Wallace?
Yes,
Hmm.
I am.
Pretty hard for the city to do their job when he can't come over there, but
I agree. But you know what? The kids have a ton of things going on. They just bought an apartment building in Ludington. Not that that's an excuse. It's not an excuse. But I don't think any of us want guilt on our mind if somebody gets killed out there.
oh, I agree with that.
And I've been there. I've seen it. Actually, I was hoping Connie would be here tonight from the engineer because she's seen how traffic cuts across there. It's not a safe environment because Mancino's has been down in business for years. I don't know how many years, but as long as I've been here. And I think people just cut across there because it was easy to get into Java. Like I said, I've done it myself. I've seen cars do it all the time until the sheds got there, and it slowed it down. Plus, I think people learned, oh, I need to go up to that stoplight and go in the proper way, But I agree that was probably not the best thing to do. But they have been, oh, that's really nice, it looks really great, and then no, that's not going to work. Back and forth, back and forth. And as far as the rock garden, it's cement out there. There is no dirt. You can't grow anything. And I feel they do not want to have the responsibility to go water it all the time because, like she said, she'll forget. And we don't want it to look like the ones that are downtown now. House of Hounahan, I go by there and it just disgusts me how it looks. I'm a master gardener. I almost want to go fix it for him if I had more time. So I think the rocks, and I know Mike's planning to put some of the big rocks back up there and hopefully maybe someday have a sculpture there. So there is plans in the work. Thanks.
Thank you. Mother/mother-in-law. That's the only one I got. So, anyone else in our audience this evening that has any comments? No? Okay. At this time, I will close public hearing and we'll discuss this. Thank you, everyone, for your comments.
Do you want any input before your conversation from legal or from staff?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Just kind of to keep the scope of it in mind, as was pointed out, this is first just on the shed part and the special use permit, and one of the conditions of that was that the site plan be filed within 60 days, and that was back in November of 2023. So we are well beyond that time, and there were multiple letters sent by city staff, which are in your memorandum there, about the fact that that site plan was not there. And that's important and relevant because you're talking about having a special land use operating without a site plan. And those two things generally need to go together. So if the applicant or the property owners aren't in a place where they have a site plan that is not going to change regularly, one option is to revoke the current approval and let them come back when they have a site plan, when they know what it is going to be and it is more perhaps final, if revocation is what the planning commission decides to do with it. We're again not looking at whether the sheds are a good or bad idea, right? The special land use was already approved, but it was conditioned, and that condition, I think, without really dispute, wasn't met. So the options would be then, to revoke it. Again, they could come back and seek that approval again when they have all of the things that they need to have, or you could, not revoke it, but then you're left with there not being a site plan and yet having a special land use operating.
Are there any other technical violations or violations of any form of our conditions?
The other condition that was mentioned in here is the legal action. I'm not sure there's a violation of that. The language was really that it was subject to any court order or easement agreements that come up. There has been a complaint filed. I have a copy of it. It is, just filed, just served, so it's not like there's any kind of court order or injunction that affects anything. But if something down the road, if a court were to say, traffic has to go here, then obviously then the site plan would need to change at that point. The filing of the lawsuit, I don't think, is really a violation. I think from my perspective in reviewing it, the real issue is not having the timely site plan.
Isn't there also a landscape plan or landscape
I think that's
work?
part of the site plan.
It's part of the site
Yeah.
plan, okay.
Yes, and thank you for clarifying that. It's the site plan and landscape plan. And again, we're not here to talk about the site plan that was just filed Friday, but rather, because that will still have to go through a whole other review if things move forward, but it was not timely filed pursuant to the conditions. And staff can correct me if I missed anything there, or?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
Any questions for Laura before we? Yes, Marcus, hi. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Just a question to Laura on process. So if the special land use permit is revoked regarding the shed placement, that doesn't prevent them from coming back to request it as long as there's the proper documentation with it. And if I'm hearing what you said, that does not create an issue, or do they have to wait till the current litigation is resolved? Okay.
I don't think they do. I don't think that there's anything that requires them to wait till the litigation's resolved. It's a wild card there, and I think if it were revoked and if they reapplied and if it were approved again, we'd still have that condition that, look, the site plan might need to change if the court orders something different with respect to that part of it,
Right.
but you could still have the rest of it, operational.
Okay.
I think we could only approve portions of the site plan that didn't affect the ongoing litigation, however. We couldn't authorize the new driveway designs because that would undermine the court action.
Well, there's no court order.
Right.
You can't,
No.
you can't undermine a court order, but anybody can file, and no disrespect to, but anybody can file a lawsuit for anything. So it doesn't restrict our ability to grant other approvals unless there is an actual court order or, an injunction or something like that.
Now it would be at somebody's risk if.
Correct, it's
they
at their risk,
put in some
exactly. If they put
curbs
money
or-
and improvements exactly into something that is going to get changed by litigation, then that's what it is.
It's likely that it wouldn't be approved as a separate curb cut. Just putting that out there.
But the other thing, Laura, if you wouldn't mind trying to clarify, I think, if perhaps not just for me, but for everyone in attendance today and for the planning commission and the public, why is it that the site plan that's being talked about tonight isn't necessarily relative to the conversation?
Right, so the only thing that the planning commission has before it is whether to revoke it because a site plan was not timely filed. I think it's important to know, we're not hiding that there was one submitted on Friday, but that's, many months, 6, whatever the number of months is, after the fact. And the content of that site plan is not before the planning commission. In fact, if it had been timely submitted, it would go through department and staff review. It wouldn't have been approved here anyway.
And it looks like it's still in flux a little.
And it's still, and I think that was the comment, it's still changing. Again, I don't want to speak necessarily to the content of it because that's not what the planning commission is deciding, but suffice it, I think staff would have, things that need to be addressed still with it.
Yeah, we still,
in 2 site plans already.
We-
John just didn't like them.
Well, there's a, respectfully difference between not liking something and making sure that it
But
meets
there's
the
a difference.
requirements for a site
There's a
plan.
difference between saying we didn't do it and we did it and they weren't accepting
yeah,
it.
let me just say,
You had a
most
motion
of
to, time to
most of
speak,
the
Mike.
improvements
You
on
did.
that site were done without any approval whatsoever from the city, despite being warned by the city that those approvals were needed. Mr. Dersham failed to attend the very first meeting. He talks about the intent of wanting to know what's going on and the communication, but he missed the very first meeting we set up. And he talks about, we give them letters and then we encourage them to submit something and then say it's not good enough. That part is just outright not true either. I gave him a warning letter before I even sent an enforcement letter to try not to send an enforcement letter so I could advise him of what was going on and what was needed so that I wouldn't have to send an enforcement letter. So what they're saying is in contradiction to what the real facts are. And I'd be happy to walk through all of those if you would like.
And this
Mr.
is why I
Wallace,
won't
could
do
you-
business in the city of Cadillac.
I gave you an opportunity to speak and you didn't want it.
Mr. Wallace, would you walk us through what the city has done, what that process has looked like? We have it kind of spelled out here, but from November meeting to today.
I took original photos of the violations that were on the site, and I sent them to Mike, and I said, these are the violations that are, as I see them, are occurring on the site. We need to talk about those, otherwise I need to send an enforcement letter, and these are the things that would show up in that enforcement letter. Well, that did not happen. What started the original communication was that they ripped out all the landscaping for the Mancino's project and didn't get approval for that. And they say, well, things can't grow there because there's pavement. Well, things were growing there. In fact, maybe they were growing too much and weren't maintained properly. So they were growing there. But so then I asked that they had to supply a new site plan, because when that original site plan was approved, it was intended to be there until somebody came in and filed a plan to say we were going to take it out or put something else in. Well, they never submitted the landscape plan to respond to that original action. We also had a meeting where we brought in the traffic engineer, Scott Tezak from Prina Newhoff, and we went over all the access issues and the whole issue about the shared driveways. And he recommended that we not do the extra driveways, and we didn't come up with a final design, but we talked through those issues. At another meeting, I met with Mike, and we talked about the landscape plan, and he mentioned trouble with maintenance. I said, well, why don't you think about some drought-tolerant grasses where you don't have the maintenance? They look nice, they add a natural element, they break up the hardscape. But again, that advice, was not listened to. He did not submit anything when he put in the rock garden. He expanded and built a widened driveway, which I agreed to a certain point, but then the plan never came in to show that that point that we had discussed was going to be honored, or was honored, because I never had a plan to compare it against. So the driveway was widened, the landscape plan was put in, all without any kind of approval or any kind of plan in front of me. The first plan that they submitted, it had virtually no dimensions of virtually anything. It says this is going to happen here, this will happen here, this will happen here, but nothing that we could rely on going into the future to say it's being violated, because we really didn't know the exact area anything was going to be taking up. It was more of a cartoon or a concept drawing than it was a site plan. And so, countless times I've had conversations or set up meetings, and the movement just keeps going on with them doing more and more things without approval. They put up fence posts, and granted, they have reasons for all this, but it still requires that you get approval. And if people think out there that, all we got to do is say we got a valid reason and we can all just start erecting permanent poles or permanent things on our sites, it becomes untenable after a while. The parking block curbs, somebody ran over one of the parking block curbs. There's tire marks on it. Potentially could be dangerous, and if they're there in the snow and nobody can see them, and they're used to having that shared access drive, that could end very badly. And then they talk about the speed of traffic coming across the site. Well, they themselves widen the driveway, which would increase the speed at which people would enter the site. So on one hand, they say these are the concerns, and on the other hand, they do things without approval that work against the concerns that they presented. And so I found through the entire process that there's been a general lack of them wanting to respond in an appropriate way, despite our efforts in our multiple meetings. The memo shows the number of times that reminder letters were sent out on the site plan. So it's not like we were trying to hang them out to dry and hope they would forget. We were trying to remind them. And those letters weren't meant to be harassment, they were meant to be reminders. So, I think the story is very different depending on which side you listen to.
That's why we're here, get both sides. Any questions for John?
I have a question. What happens to Mr. Dersham's business if we revoke this tonight? What happens tomorrow? Does his business cease to operate?
This is just related to the shed part. There's other things
Okay.
going on that parcel.
Okay.
So the shed sales and storage would not be permitted.
Okay. Thank you.
But the equipment thing they were putting up in this corner, that was never brought to us to be even done.
That's a separate issue.
Separate issue. But
And
we're still doing it.
that's a decision I would have to make, whether it needed to come to the planning commission, just like the shed issue was. I'm okay with approving a fair amount of outdoor storage, like say on their sidewalk, they have fire pit rings and things like that. If they load that site up, it's not a critical connection path between the parking and the doorway. So I don't mind if they load that up. But when you start putting larger objects, like construction equipment, I think it starts to cross the line. Much like if they wanted to put trailers out there, that would require a special land use permit. So it's, when I finally act on the site plan, I'll have to decide whether I think that crosses the line into needing a special land use permit or not. And that's one of the things that'll happen during site plan review.
Mhm. Thank you, John. Any other questions for staff, or?
Does this site plan have enough detail that you can take it to the, and follow through what you have to do?
Not 100%, but it's getting close. I think there's just a few more dimensions that are needed, like the distance from the property line with Java to the sheds, and the size of the shed storage area, so that we'll know what area has been allocated for that storage. I mean, the lines are there, but there's no dimension. So if we had to go out and check on whether they were within that area, we wouldn't have a way to do that. And there's maybe a few other minor things, but I think probably 80–85% of what's needed is there on the plan.
Getting closer. It's good. Ms. Laura,
Yes.
isn't part of John's job enabling him to go onto this property? Other than of what
Oh, are
this
you
says?
referring to the letter?
Yeah.
Yeah, John did not violate anything.
I didn't think so, but just thought I'd inquire.
I'm generally inclined to not be upset about technical violations and people trying their best. The tone of this letter, combined with an inability to ensure that anything's ever going to come in and get approved, would lead me to suggest we should revoke it and wait until we get the site plan done and come back and do it again. This letter's beyond the pale, and I was close, but until I saw that.
There. Well,
I move that the special land use permit be revoked.
have a second?
Do you need background on that, council, on why or under?
You can say, for violation of special land use conditions.
For failure to meet the conditions of the special land use permit, I move that the permit be revoked.
I have to second.
Mr. Rice, second?
Just 1 second.
Yep. I'll give you all of them you need.
You're the best. Okay. Fent.
How do I answer this? To revoke it would be yes?
Correct.
You are supporting the motion or not supporting?
Yes
I
is to
So
revoke.
yes.
Yes.
Rice.
Yes.
Bauman.
Yes.
Filkins.
Yes.
Bunce. Host.
Yes.
Putvin.
Yes.
Bosher.
Yes.
Van Pelt.
Thank you, Danielle. Okay. Moving right along. New business. New business being none. Old business, none. Board member comments. I have a question. Is there an ordinance on Jake breaks in our city?
Only for Jake.
We would have to look into that, Mr. Chairman.
It's
Don't know off the top
The
of
reason
our
I
heads.
bring it up is because in Buckley, they got a sign that states that, and when I'm out front and stuff, and these guys go through and do that, oh my God, it's quite disruptive.
They do it through our neighborhood.
Huh?
They do it through our
Yeah, you're on the highway.
Yeah. Thus the reason for my question. Okay,
How would you get that enacted?
what's that?
How would you bring that as a city ordinance?
Buckley had the
Noise
sign,
ordinance.
so it must be able, you can pass something.
It would become part of our noise ordinance, I would think,
Okay.
which already exists.
It's only on the north side of Buckley. There's not one on the south side.
Could be called
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
And I always wondered, is that the city or is that guy who lives there? But
Thank you, folks, for coming.
There are some.
There's one in Stronach too that says no Jake breaks, but they do that in the middle of the night, and it's amazing how loud it is.
yeah.
Especially in between buildings and stuff.
Yeah, it's,
That was the reason for that.
So, just a very cursory search on our code online, and I'll reiterate, very cursory. I'm not seeing anything regarding engine braking, but that doesn't mean I haven't found it, or we may not have it. So,
How would
Could be
we go
decibel.
about having one? Could we, I guess?
Is there a decibel level called out?
There is a decibel level in the MCL. So the Michigan Motor Vehicle Code has a decibel level.
but it would have to be measured with an instrument.
Okay.
And that would be part of the code of ordinances and not the zoning ordinance, so that would likely not go through planning commission.
Right.
Mr. Chair, I move we move on to communications.
Yes, move on to communications, okay.
He's hungry.
And I told him I'd have him out.
Dinner.
That's right.
What he's saying is quick.
Any other board member comments before I move forwards?
They do it for fun.
No more board member comments, we're good? Okay, communications, staff?
You have the communications that
Yes,
we received.
we do.
The letter and the site plan.
Okay. Any public, any comments from public? No. Wow. That's a first. I'm looking at somebody. Okay. It's all good.
Twice in one day.
I know that. Oh, he was here. Okay. No other business. We're good. Thank you.